I missed my turnover goal by £120,000 in 2024. And I wanted to share with you exactly what I'm going to do about that to make sure it doesn't happen again in 2025. So here's exactly what I'm going to do about it. Now, before we start, there's a really important piece of context I want to just add to this, is that although 2024, we missed our target by 120K, we were actually still up on 2023. So we still technically made more turnover. We were just lower than the target that we'd set for ourselves. And on top of that, our profitability was still increased. So it is possible for you to miss a turnover target. However, you have made more turnover and you can still be more profitable all at the same time. All that as well, we've been renovating the house. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll have seen Sarah and I renovating our entire house, which cost me, as a total investment, the renovation cost more than buying my first house did outright. So I've spent a lot of money this year, and we still ended up this year with more money in the bank than we started. So it can still be a very positive thing to miss a target. So the lesson in that first little section is that turnover is vanity, profit is sanity, and ultimately cash is reality. I just want to be very, very clear on that before we dive into it. So what I've done is I've broken it down into various steps, 4 steps that I am going to take in 2025 to ensure that we don't have the same issue again at the end of this year. So number 1 is to acknowledge the missed revenue goal and to recalibrate. I think that's most important. It's very easy to just think, right, okay, fuck it, we missed it, and then just start a next race and just jump straight into it and start panic acting. And that can be very, very detrimental to your progress. So let's be real, missing a goal the size of this, it stings, it hurts. It's not fun. I don't enjoy missing a target by 120 grand. But instead of wallowing in self-pity and feeling sorry for myself, I've decided to use it as an opportunity to recalibrate, reflect, and ultimately to dominate 2025. So that's the thing with big goals. That's the thing with when you start setting yourself really lofty aspirational goals, is that they're actually technically easier to miss. But I can tell you that without a clear goal in 2024, without a lofty goal in 2024, we would most certainly have made much, much less than we did. So I know they say, like, aim for the stars, and if you fail, you'll shoot for the moon, and if you miss, you'll land on the stars, or some bullshit like that. It's kind of true. I do think rather than say you're making, let's say last year you made £40,000 for the year, the safe money is being like, okay, let's make 45 this year. The problem with the safe goal is that you'll probably hit it, but you're definitely unlikely to exceed it. If you made 40 grand last year and you say, this year I want to make 100 grand, is more than 100% increase in what you're currently making, I guarantee you will go a lot fucking further. So the first piece of advice I really have for you today is that to make sure that you are setting yourself lofty, or what Lululemon call BHAGs, big, hairy, aspirational goals, like stuff that scares the shit out of you. Like, it should scare you. So the reason we missed it by 120 but still made more is because the size of the goal was absolutely enormous. And that's the most important thing I can tell you so far. That's step 1, is to acknowledge the missed revenue goal and to recalibrate. Step number 2 is to analyze what went right. I think if the problem with step 1 was we just start another race, we're like, fuck it, 2025, let's go, and you start rushing off into this new thing, the risk with that is that you never take a minute to recalibrate. The second risk is that you immediately, when you do miss something, is that your first action is to review what went wrong when there is a lot of positive stuff that went right. So before diving straight into problems, I always find it much more beneficial to write a list of things that we just fucking crushed, if I'm honest. And 3 things came to mind straight away. The first of them was that we grew the team with some incredibly talented individuals. And I think that's incredibly important, is that if I hadn't taken this time to review that, I would just be like, fuck it, what do we need to do? When in actual fact, if we take a step back and look at it, the team at the Optimized Coach has grown, and it's grown with some fucking legends which are going to help us in 2025. The second thing that we absolutely nailed is we significantly increased profitability. Profitability for me is one of the absolute golden metrics. It's one of the things that matters the absolute most. So for us, we managed to cut back on some things where we were probably less profitable, make some changes to make sure that we were more profitable, change the model and structure slightly to make it a more profitable offer for us, which works very, very well. Also, whilst protecting that the results haven't been in any way reduced for the clients. And step number 3 is we got much, much, much clearer on who our people are and more importantly, who they're not. So I'm happy to tell you, like the purpose of the channel is to be able to tell you where I fucked up. Now, I think where most people, I know in my early days of watching YouTube and listening to podcasts, I used to think like the things I would learn were the things that they're doing and I could emulate those things. And whilst that is true, I have found over the years that the stuff that's more valuable is listening to people's mistakes and fuck-ups, them teaching me those, and then in doing so prevent me from making the same things. Effectively, it's a shortcut to avoid the unnecessary demons of running a business. So I'm happy to tell you, over the last couple of years, as the business has grown rapidly, it's been fantastic, but obviously with that, lots of people have come in, and as a lot of people have come in, the net has broadened, and with that, both team members and clients alike, we've just had some people in that weren't the best fit for us, and vice versa, we weren't the best fit for them. So what we've done is we've worked really, really hard to recalibrate and get clearer on that so that we're bringing in only the right people. So if I'm honest, one of the things that we did really, really well, especially the back end of last year, was saying no to a lot more people. I always say to clients, and I will continue to say to myself and to you here, is that in order to say yes to something, you need to understand what you're saying no to. So I need to say yes to the right people, but in order to be able to do that, I need to say no to the wrong people who effectively aren't going to be a good fit for me and vice versa. So point number 2 was to analyze what went right, and they were my 3 things. We grew the team, we significantly increased profitability, and we got clearer on exactly who our people are. The third step is to analyze what could have gone better. So we touched on this already. It's the obvious place to go, right? Is, okay, we didn't hit our goal, what did we fuck up? And that's effectively what step 3 is. So after a lot of reflection, this one took a little bit of soul searching, here's what I realized. 3 things came to mind. Number 1 is I spent way too much time in 2024 wearing too many hats again. I regularly sacrifice what I would call my maker time to put out fires that I didn't need to. Now, our Lord and Savior, Alex Hormozy, has this saying with Layla, his wife, let small fires burn, I think is exactly how he says it. Might be getting that wrong. The point is, not all fires need to be put out by you. And I have, in the last 6 to 12 months, been dragged from pillar to post fixing problems that realistically there are team members there to fix. I'm happy to tell you I'm a control freak, I am a perfectionist, and with those things I'm also impatient, and that is a dangerous trifecta of things. And when that's the case, I have got involved and been like, fuck it, give me that and I'll do it. That's not how to lead. And with that, because I wore too many hats, my maker time got taken away. So what I mean by maker time is every single morning when I wake, 5:30, from 5:30 to 7:30 is what's called maker time. That time is me with no incoming comms, no client WhatsApp, no email, no Instagram, no Facebook, nothing that can, no new information into my head other than the stuff that I choose. And I'll either spend that time making trainings for the coaches, researching things to help them, learning from my own business, building resources, like you name it. That stuff is done in that time. And if I don't, where I fucked up last year was I would spend that time, I would go in with the intent to do that. I would open WhatsApp, I would see 15 messages from clients and think, fuck, the guys need me, and I would jump straight into fixing it. When in reality, that stuff can wait till 7:30. So that's the first thing that I really dropped the ball on, is I wore too many hats and I sacrificed my own maker time. The second thing is our lead capture systems couldn't handle the load increase. So therefore we need new systems. Like in reality, the CRM that we were using just wasn't robust enough, and it's entirely my fault as the leader, is it just couldn't handle the significant increase in leads that we saw in 2024 versus 2023, which is to be expected with a business that is rapidly scaling. So as we scaled, more leads came in, and as more leads came in, the systems that we had in place for tracking them, which like for a lot of you guys, that system will be your fucking Instagram DMs, that system doesn't scale that well without something else on top of it. So we spent a lot of time in December and then in early January really researching with my assistant and with Sarah, what system are we going to use? Which system suits us best? And in reality, it took us a long time to really find something that started to work, because I don't love CRMs. I spent 10 years working in engineering before this job, and I really don't like anything that smells even remotely corporate. So I had to find something that was fun. So the second problem was that our lead capture lead management systems were just not robust enough. And then the third problem is that I didn't double down on what worked in the past. I committed to too many mad experiments. I've written about this a lot. I've spoken about this a lot to clients. I've written emails about this recently, is that in reality, I think there's a kind of balance to be found in business between experimenting with new things and trying new different ways of presenting your offer and delivering your offer and so on and so forth, and also doubling down on what you already know works. And it's striking a constant balance between those two things. I'm happy to tell you, whilst it doesn't make me feel happy, I'm happy to do it, that I committed to too many crazy experiments in 2024. And those crazy experiments led to missed opportunity in financial terms, if I'm honest. Lots of those experiments went very well, but if I had just reviewed 2023, so here's an action point for you. Look at last year, 2024. Look at the offers that you put out, the times that you put them out, the time that you spent campaigning for those offers, and what worked and ultimately what didn't. What worked, run it again exactly as it happened before. Like, just do not fuck with the system. If it worked, run it again. Because you will run it 2 or 3 or 4 times and then it'll stop working. Just kick the arse out of it in the first case. For me, I looked at 2023, I ignored 2023 and thought I knew better and thought this is the year of experimentation. Well, you see where that gets you. So this year, 2025, we're going back to what we know already works. So step 3 was to analyze what could have gone better. Step 4 then is to lay out the plan. So here's exactly what I'm going to do in 2025 to make sure that we knock it out the park and that we don't miss our target by 6 figures again. So 4.1 is to set clearer revenue goals. So last year we broke it down into here's what we want to make in 2024, and that number was set. This year, instead of just breaking it down into an annual turnover goal and into quarterly targets, I'm going to break it down from quarterly into monthly and from monthly into weekly. There's a huge irony in this. Again, just happy to be transparent on this channel. It's the purpose of it. We encourage our clients to do exactly that, from annual back into quarters, from quarters back into months, and then from months back into weeks. If that is the case, and I'm advising that, why on earth am I not doing that? So I just need to do that, because if we can track on weekly milestones, we can adapt faster to, because we'll be able to see from a week by week, we've got 52 opportunities for review, as opposed to 1 if you do it annually, 4 if you do it quarterly, and 12 if you do it monthly. I would advise you break down your goals to a weekly, and you know exactly how much money you need to make in each. Once you've got, let's do the maths. Take what you need to earn in a year. What's your target for this year? Divide that by 12. Great, that's going to tell you what you need to do in every single month. At that point, if you take you could take the annual goal and divide it by 52. That's what you need. Annual divided by 52 is what you need in a week. If you take that number, annual divided by 52, and then divide that by what we would call your ASP, your average selling price, which, let's just say, for example, you sell coaching at £199 per month. You would take your annual target, divide it by 52, and then divide the answer to that by 199. That tells you how many clients you need to acquire per week, 52 weeks on the bounce, in order to hit your financial target. Plain and simple. And that's new sales only. That doesn't take into account monthly recurring revenue, so it works very, very well. It's a kind of good belt and braces model. 4.2 is to re-systemize the lead capture and qualification. As I've already said, fucked that one up last year. Systems couldn't handle lead flow. Lead flow then got messy. People slipped through the cracks, and we were a little bit slow off the mark on some things. So we've already upgraded our systems over the break, and we actually spent some time doing that, as I've already said, to allow a smoother, more connected process for a lot of things. Lead capture, lead management, and lead nurture. You need to think about those 3 things. When someone becomes a lead, where do they go? Right? Once they go into that place, how do you manage them in that place? And then when you've got them in a managed platform, how do you actively nurture those people that drives them closer towards becoming a sale? So that was 4.2, is that we need to re-systemize the lead capture and qualification process. 4.3 is to hire and delegate strategically. I see this one with a smile on my face because I am awful at delegation. I'm trying, I'm working on it, I'm trying to get better at it. We'll be bringing on a few really select new key hires in 2025 to allow me to remain in my zone of genius. and ultimately to spend more time in flow and have more maker time. So up until last year, Chaz, who's recording and editing this, didn't exist in the business. And I did a lot of my video stuff myself. But in reality, it wasn't serving me. It wasn't a good use of my skill set. I'm incredibly slow at editing. I enjoy it, but I'm not very fast at it. I don't have a fucking clue how to set it all up. So I had to learn it. And as a result of that, I was being taken out of where I can make the most impact and make the most revenue, and I was doing someone else's job. Same thing goes. Best analogy here is like an accountant. If you don't have an accountant as a coach, what the fuck are you doing is the straight question. You need someone who knows exactly what they're doing. It's going to take far less time, and it's going to cost you a little bit of money. Like, these are the key hires you need to be thinking about making. And then 4.4 is accountability, which plain and simply, every month I'm going to sit down and audit my own KPIs for myself, for my own performance, more closely, focusing on what's actually moving the needle. Because if we tie everything that I've already told you together, one of the biggest problems that we had was 2024 was a really big year for us in events, in client catch-ups, in all the different ways that we grew the business. But as a result, I just felt like I was just running around, flying by the seat of my pants for the entire year, which was great. I feel like I aged about 5 years. I noticed my hair was going really grey this morning when I was sorting it out. Probably as a result of last year. I need to sit down this year and just be a little bit more calculated and, okay, holding myself to account. Now, I'm going to take a wee minute to touch on accountability. A lot of coaches come to us and say that they need and want accountability from us. And whilst we provide that, the first line of accountability defense should always be yourself. Like, my goal is to teach coaches to be accountable to themselves. Like, I don't need to phone you up and be like, yo, did you go for a shit this morning? Yeah. Did you remember to wipe? But you just fucking remembered to wipe. Unless you haven't and you're cutting about with a crispy arsehole right now, you remembered to wipe. I don't need to phone you and ask, did you remember to brush your teeth this morning? Otherwise, you're cutting about with honking breath. You're accountable to yourself for stuff that you know matters. But for some reason, we treat business, operations, content, lead management, lead flow, lead qualification, sales process, delivery process, we treat them as some sort of different, altogether different category. And they're not. You need to be accountable to yourself. And this is me telling you, I'm going to be more accountable to myself in 2025. And I'm going to also, if we go back to 4.3, is to hire and delegate. I'm going to lean on the key team members to keep me accountable. Chaz is a great example. He keeps me accountable to content. If there's something that I have said I will do and I don't do, I get a fairly sharp message very quickly. I get a note left, a passive-aggressive note left on the content schedule that says, where the fuck is this? Great. So there's kind of a twofold thing there. So to recap the kind of so far, or this is us coming to the conclusion here, is if we missed our target by 120K in 2024, step number one was to acknowledge that we missed the target, and after that is to recalibrate and just make sense of things. In order to make sense of things, point number two was to analyze what went right in 2024. Big believer in starting with positives. If you start with a list of positives and then you move into the negatives, I just think you're in a better headspace to solve a problem, whereas if you start with negatives, you immediately just feel a bit shit. So I like to start with positives, which leads into point three, which is then you review the negatives, or rather than negatives, the challenges. What could have gone better? Language matters here. So they're not negatives, they're just challenges. They're things that you could have done better. And then finally, point number four was to lay out the plan. And to recap the plan was to set clearer revenue goals and break them down further, was to resystemize our lead capture and lead qualification processes, was to hire and delegate strategically, and then finally was to just be more accountable to myself. And with that, if you'd like some more accountability in your life, there will be a link below this video where you can apply to work with us, and I will hold you accountable so that you can make, let's say you can make another 120 grand in 2025. I say that sounds like a pretty fucking good deal. Click the link, fill in the form, and we'll be in touch.